So the Trump administration has frozen billions of dollars in federal funding for Harvard because the Ivy League is refusing to comply to, hey, let's not let people say, let's kill all the Jews on campus. I don't know. Seems pretty easy. If you want your money spent, there, go ahead. I'm really done with the university thing. I'm way past that. Harvard, you have more money than Jesus. Okay. And I know at the time he didn't have pockets, so he didn't have a lot of money. But the guys who are out there collecting money for him now, they got a lot. And you have more. I'm done bailing your ass out. You don't pay taxes and I'm still paying for you? No. You get no federal money.
Absolutely no reason for us to be giving Harvard one dime.
No, not
ever.
A dime. None of these Ivy Leagues. No. Not a single dime.
What do they have? $50 billion in endowment that they could just milk forever and let everyone go to the college for free if they wanted to?
I think it's more than that.
Is it more than 50?
You should look it up. I think it's a lot more than that. But these Ivy League schools, there's no reason that we're paying for them. None. Why? Why should we send them a dime? Especially when they're doing the same thing. This is not new. This whole thing, of hating the Jews, this is exactly what they did in the 1930s. They were overlooking any kind of anti-Semitism, and it was all driven by elitism. It was all driven by anti-Semitic thought. There was even, they embraced the Nazis. Harvard, the person that was running Harvard, the Harvard president at the time, James Conant, he was keeping ties with the Nazi-controlled universities. And then he brought people in from the Nazi party, including a Harvard alumni and a Hitler confidant, to campus in 1934. Well, anti-Nazi students were like, hey, this is a problem. And so what did Harvard do? Called in the police. Beat the protesters. Protests were suppressed. They tore down the signs. They arrested the demonstrators, all because they had a Nazi on campus. And they thought maybe that's a bad thing. So also Harvard, who, by the way, Trump is thinking about defunding. There should be no thought in that. I'm sure there's no thought there. I'm sure he's already went, I don't have to think about it very long. Cut it. But anyway, they worried back in the 1930s there were just too many Jewish students and just too many Jews that are, teaching from all over the world that are now coming here. We can't have all this, quote, Jewish thought. Oh, okay. All right. That sounds, okay. Then you have Columbia. They were just as good. They had Nicholas Murray Butler. He had the Nazi ambassador on campus and then did exchanges with the Nazi universities. And it was great because they had all these Nazis on the campus and they were good for the Jewish population. They loved it. And the Columbia University said, well, we have academic ties. We're not talking politics. Okay, well, do you know they're gassing the Jews over there? And it started with the universities getting rid of the Jews. Yeah. Yale, they were big time in eugenics. It's like Stanford. They were the eugenics leaders, and those guys all had ties with with only the best medical people in Germany. So nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. This is who they are. They're the elites. And I say they're the elites, but not all the elites. Like, they didn't want to hire any of the elite professors. They came from Heidelberg. If they were Jewish and out of a job, they're not getting a job here because they're the wrong kind of elites. We don't want to play golf with them or be around them or hear any of their Jewish thought. This should be a no-brainer on several levels. Why are we giving Harvard, that is just making money hand over fist, and putting it into a big endowment so they can last forever? They could live off their endowment forever. Why are we paying them money? Why? I'll tell you why. Because we're in bed with the educational industrial complex. We're producing people the government wants produced. That's why. That's why that's happening. Period. These are the same kinds of people that brought in all of these, Operation Paperclip people. When we win the war, and we find some of the worst of the worst, and we find them over in Germany. We're like, oh, we got to have that guy. We got to have that guy. Let me give you a couple of Herbert Strughold. He was known as the father of space medicine. Ooh. How did he become the father of space medicine? Well, he oversaw all the experiments at Dachau, where all of the prisoners were subject to extreme conditions, high altitude. Hey, how high can we fly before somebody pops? Hey, let's put them outside, pour water on them, and see how long it takes them to freeze. Or let's just force seawater in them and see how long they can last with just seawater. Okay? They didn't end well for the patients that were there, but it didn't matter. Colombia didn't mind because they're all Jews. They're all Jews, so we can get rid of those guys. So he's one of the guys that oversaw all of the doctors. He then went to the Air Force School of Aviation for medicine, where he was the guy here in America that advanced all of our space medicine. He's the guy who said, hey, we did this with Jews. We saw how high you could go before they popped, before their heads exploded. What happens to them if they get really, really super cold. So I kind of know. I have a little expertise in this. So let me design all of the regulations and all of the safety protocols, for Mercury and Apollo. That's it. By the way, he also he has an award named after him. The Strughold Award is still being given out, but don't worry about that. So then you had the Surgeon General of the Third Reich. He was brought over. He's the guy who supervised all of the medical experiments, including typhus and plague weaponization. He approved all the tests exposing the prisoners to lethal pathogens in camps like Buchenwald. High-ranking SS kind of guy. Don't worry. He just came over. He was just doing stuff with our medicine. Kurt Blum came over. He was great. Nazi biological warfare guy. He was at the tippy top of that. Strangely, all these guys worked at the concentration camps. I don't know what was going on in those concentration camps, why they were working there, but this guy was working at Auschwitz and other camps, and he was just exposing people to all kinds of biological. He's the guy who came over here and he helped us make aerosol bioweapons. Isn't that great? All these guys were academics. All of them were academics. All of this needs to be burned out of our society. All of them. We should not have any awards named after Nazis. I'm sorry, I'm not a guy for tearing down statues. I want people to remember who these people are. I want the building, the names of all of the buildings in Stamford. I want the building to remain with those names on, because I want everybody to know they named them after the worst eugenicists in the world. Stanford University. And in the meantime, I don't think we pay for any of it. Myself, I don't think we pay for any of this stuff. They haven't changed. They're exactly the same people, and they keep reintroducing the same pathogen, anti-Semitism, over and over and over again. No. By the way, I don't know if anybody's noticed, they have plenty of money in their pockets. How much money do we have in our pockets? Okay? None. We're borrowing money to give money to people who have all the money. I don't think so. Are we going to give grants to Bill Gates? I don't think that would be very smart. I bet you we're doing it. Wouldn't be real smart, would it? That's what we're doing. So we got that going for us. Let's see what else is going on. While we're here on medicine and Nazis and universities, a transgender activist that was employed as the community navigator for the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center, the Children's Hospital, suggested that women should be allowed to donate their wombs to be transplanted into transgender women, otherwise known as men, to allow them to give birth. Now, I don't think you can just sew those parts in and it works. You know, I don't think so. Might be a little more complex than that, but what do I know? I'm not a doc. Oh, I am a doctor. No. So Allison Kathleen Simpson reportedly made the comments that surfaced in a video on social media. She said the possibility of womb transplants was theorized in the trans community. Yeah, you know when they did this the first time? 1925. You know where they did it? Berlin, Germany. Whoa, wait a minute. Are you saying all of this sexology and transgenderism and all that stuff was being done in Berlin, Germany, right before the Nazis took over? Yes, honey, that's exactly what I'm saying. It's exactly what and you know what? When the Nazis came in and they decided that this was unacceptable. See, homosexuals do have, gay community, you do have a reason to fear Nazis. They're not your friends. I don't know why you march for them. You know, the new Nazis are just the Palestinians. I don't know why you march for them, but you do have a reason to be afraid of Nazis because they didn't like you very much. And when it got completely out of control and all of the literature about sewing wombs into people were in the schools and the sexology university, I think, of Berlin, all of this stuff was coming from them, and it went and it permeated their schools just like it's doing now. That's when the Nazis came to power, and so many Christians were like, I can't fight this. It's completely out of control. You know what? Who these guys will? The first book burnings were all the burnings of the stuff that we're pumping into our society right now. So you don't want to grow Nazis. You might not want to be an extremist and then shut everybody down who says, hey, that's extreme, because you produce extremists. The natural consequence is the other side produces extremists. And then all of us in the middle are like, oh, dear God. That's what's happening. So it's good. She went on in social media and she said, I have these parts. I don't want them. I want you to have them because you need them. What if I gave you my womb? Well, if you did, he'd probably die. I think his body would reject the womb. That's what happened to the first guy they tried to sew it into. In 1929, 1925 is when they started, putting breasts on him and everything else. And 1929, he finally, he got that womb and they sewed it inside of him. For some reason, the male body rejects a womb. Who would have seen that coming? And he died in 1929. But hey, let's do it again. Because what did she say? The transgender community has been theorizing about this for a while. Yeah, since the 1920s. Not a lot has changed. Science doesn't change. Real science doesn't change. A man will always be a man. I'm going to talk to you about another taxpayer-funded debacle that should go away, and that's PBS.
Narrow that down quite a bit.
I know. PBS and NPR. Donald Trump is talking about ending the taxpayer funding for that. There's no reason. There is absolutely no reason. They're violating all of their non-commercial bullcrap. They're not supposed to be able to talk about the benefits of a certain product. They can say, paid for by people just like you. Like, George Soros Foundation. That's all they can say. They can't say the George Soros Foundation, which specializes in such and such, right, and is making the world a better place. They can't say that. By law, they can't say that. They've been saying that for years. And they're making money. Lots and lots of money. Can we stop giving funding to people that are already making money?
Yeah, we did this with Big Bird. Remember when Mitt Romney said something about PBS or something, and then they were like, they're going to try to kill Big Bird. Yeah, it's like, well, Big Bird, they make billions of dollars a year on
merchandising alone.
Hundreds of millions of dollars a year just on merchandising. Right? Like they should be able to function with a budget.
Yeah.
Like other people, like
I know
other
we could
sources.
run the Blaze on just a fraction of Big Bird plush toys.
Oh, gosh, yes.
Yeah.
100%.
I don't know why they can't run their whole thing.
And that's the thing. Like, do you have a list of things? I have a list of things that are loosely in my head of what the government, we shouldn't even consider spending money by the government unless you hit certain things. Like, for example, no one else can do it. Right? Like the military.
Yeah.
No one else can really do that.
Well, they can, but we don't want them to.
We don't want them to.
Yeah.
We expect and will afford ourselves and whatever program is being funded some level of inefficiency. Like the military is another good example of this. Some people would argue medical research is. Like I'm kind of okay with the government and its military wasting some money on some new weapon system that doesn't wind up working out.
Yes.
I'm like okay with them failing at that. I want them
DARPA.
I want the DARPA stuff. I want that in that particular.
Have to.
So that makes sense. Arts are a great example of what you should never fund because people already like doing them, right? Like people do art all the time. They pay to go do art. They like doing art. People enjoy it. You don't need to pay for it by the government if there is already.
I really like Dallas. I like Texas. Rick Perry came to the Dallas people because Boeing rejected moving to Dallas because there wasn't enough arts. And he came to the community and said, you need to build some stuff.
This is
and they did.
The private
without
donations.
any taxpayer funds.
Mm-hmm.